I am Ray, and this may just be the most important video you ever see. You see, I had a revelation just recently. Yesterday, in fact. And it was a big one. And it had to do with this quote. If the cat wishes to be a lion, they must lose their appetite for rats. And when you truly understand what this means, then you have great things coming your way, my friend. Now, I learned this through social media addiction. And other addictions as well. Media. And really any temporary pleasures of this world. Because what you find is that as you engage in the temporary pleasures, no matter what it is, it doesn't bring you that much satisfaction. It just really doesn't. The first time, maybe it's good. The second time, a little bit less good. The third time, a lot less good. It's like, even with coffee. I've learned that 2 cups of coffee is the best. I can feel energized without being too jittery or, cracked out. The only problem is that it makes me phlegmy. So when I make these videos, I have to pause every 5 seconds to clear my throat. The things I do. I came up with this little story one time, and I think it'll help. Imagine you're at a restaurant, and the waiter comes up to you and says, "What would you like? Look at our menu. We have all these cool things. We have hot dogs, we have hamburgers, we have milkshakes. Anything you want in life." And so you make your order. You say it's all good. The waiter says, "We'll be just out in a moment." The waiter leaves, and then a few minutes later, another waiter comes. But this guy's wearing all black. Looks like he's ready for a funeral. And he says, "Hello there, my friend. Thank you for coming. I want to give you a complimentary cookie." Every guest gets a cookie before their meal. So he gives a cookie to you, and you got to make the choice of whether or not you eat it. Let's say you eat the cookie. Oh, everything's good. The original waiter comes back. Let's say he's wearing all white. Make it obvious. The original waiter comes out and he says, "Oh, I'm so sorry. There's been a problem. There's going to be a little bit of a delay on your food. I'm sorry. That's all we can do." High five. So you kind of get a little bit frustrated. Okay, fine. I'm here. Let's just enjoy the time. And a few minutes later, again, the man in black, he comes to your table and says, "I'm very sorry for your wait. Very, very sorry. I'm just going to have to give you another cookie because, I'm sorry. Here's another cookie. Eat it." Eat it. And they did eat. And you did eat. And the same thing happens again, over and over and over again. It's almost like every time you eat the cookie, there's a delay with your meal. Why? This is the story of our life. And I call it, "Don't eat the devil's cookie." Because God is trying to bring to you, who is the original waiter, trying to bring to you what is good for you. The actual nutritious meal that you want. What you really, really want. But it takes time. It takes patience. You gotta wait. And in the meantime, in the waiting time, the devil just comes along and says, "Hey, what about a cookie? Have one. It's okay." And because you're like, "Oh, okay, whatever, eat the cookie," well, now you gotta wait even longer for what you want. Because, well, you ate the cookie, you're not gonna be as hungry for the actual meal. You're temporarily satisfied, but not nourished. And because you keep eating the cookie, by the end of it, you just get sick, and you're tired of eating. Eventually, the waiter comes out, brings you your food. "Here, finally, here's your food." And you've already had like 10 cookies. So you're not even hungry anymore. You're just sick. You want to go home. You want to cry. Take a nap. Because you got tricked. Now, is one cookie after the meal a problem? Not a problem. But the story shows that there are things got to be placed in a proper order. If you eat the cookie before the meal, you will be less satisfied. More suffering. And the devil's cookie shows up all the time in our life, everywhere, as what we want, but in a lesser form. So a lesser thing disguised as what we want. And because we like cookies, we just say, "I want a cookie, I want a cookie, I want a cookie." That is why they talk about, delaying gratification as a virtue. Now I want to give you a little context into my life so you can understand how I approach things. I take a more tantric path in life. And what Tantra is, it means instead of running away, instead of renunciation, instead of self-mastery through abstinence, you engage in self-mastery through indulgence. Now, not indulgence as just mindlessly indulging in whatever. That's just being silly. But it's using those kind of mindless actions, like scrolling on social media, or eating the cookie, or smoking weed, or cigarettes, or crack. Okay, no, this doesn't work for crack. You gotta be like an expert or something. It means you engage in whatever it is that is dragging you into it, whatever desire, and instead of fighting it, instead of resisting it, you use it as a spiritual practice. So this is what I've done. So as I'm mindlessly scrolling on social media, and perhaps smoking some cannabis, and, well, I don't really drink too much coffee anymore, but you have to become aware of the dissatisfaction that things bring you. Because if you don't pay attention when you eat that cookie, if you don't realize that it's not actually doing anything good for you, then you will continue to do that. And it won't change. But once you realize how stupid it is to eat the cookie, it becomes natural just to drop it. Like I always say, addiction is like, or self-destructive behavior is like putting your hand on a hot stove. There's only two reasons you do it. You either don't like yourself very much because you got a lot of trauma, so you're on this path of self-destruction. You're just hurting yourself. Or you're just unconscious and you don't realize that you're doing it. It's the only two ways you can keep your hand on there. Because the moment you're aware that your hand is on there, you're like, oh no, I can't do that. But it's a little bit more complicated when it comes to things like addictions. Because it's not so obvious. The pain isn't so obvious at first. It's like you're a masochist. I love the pain. Oh no, I don't like the pain. A masochist with bipolar or something, I don't know. And so what happens as you engage in whatever it is that you assume isn't that good for you, through your experience, every time you do it, every time you indulge, every time you engage in that self-destructive behavior, no matter what it is, it's waking you up. But you have to have the intention to use it as a spiritual practice. And not as you, as a little human ego, struggling with some addiction. Because you could stay stuck in that mess forever. But it's just hard, and you're always at risk for falling back. Like after 30 years, you have one shot of alcohol, and then you're done. I don't know about you, but I personally don't want to live that way. So you learn how to control these desires. You learn how to manage them. You prevent them from pulling you all over the place. Not by running away, but by engaging with them consciously. And you don't get trapped in the psychological drama of, again, you as a human ego struggling with an addiction, trying to get out of the addiction, trying to deal with it. No. You use whatever it is as a means to God. And it works really well. And it's not a path for the faint-hearted. Like a lot of guys struggle with pornography addiction. So they're trying to get out of it. They're trying to get rid of it. No FAP and all that. And semen retention. And of course, it's the more renunciate path of, I got to get rid of this. Get it out. Running away. Abstinence. Complete zero. Nothing. No attachment to that thing. And that's one way. Not a bad way. Good way. Just different way. Then this. Because what happens when you take the tantric approach? You feel the desire, you feel the urge arising in you. And you just be aware of it. You don't make some kind of big conclusion about, oh no, I'm not doing this, I swear I won't do it. And you're not getting caught in the, yes, I need to do it. You're just aware. You're just observing on how you feel. You're watching yourself get dragged into a certain kind of behavior. And simply through your awareness alone, you transcend that behavior. Because it's no longer something that's troubling you. It's no longer something that's a problem. It's a stepping stone to God. It's a stepping stone to higher spirituality. So whatever so-called negative thing is no longer negative. It's positive. And the reason I like this so much better is because no matter what you do in this life, you will never get rid of temptation. So it's like if you ask, well, is porn bad for you? And I would say, it doesn't matter. If you overcome porn addiction, you're just going to find something else. If you're not fully a whole, integrated human being. And that's what the problem is a lot of the times, is like we try too hard to deal with the surface situation, deal with the surface level addiction without changing the fundamental psychology behind it. So you get rid of one addiction, it creates a void. And that void attracts another addiction, just in some other way. And maybe we can take the negative addictions and just transform them into positive addictions, like going to the gym. I don't know if we ever get rid of the addictions. Maybe. Maybe we're just all addicted to something, and whoever gets addicted to the better things wins. But I like this approach because it teaches you to deal with whatever is in front of you. When you expose yourself to any kind of self-destructive behavior, and you're stuck in it, if you could just shift your mind a little bit toward what is good, the experience will no longer be negative. At least all that much. And it'll become more and more good as you go along. As it said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So how many people do you think are suffering from pornography addiction and are beating themselves up with shame and guilt all day, every day? Well, once you change the way you look at the situation, the addiction, it stops being that problem. It stops creating shame and guilt for you. And so the next time you're exposed to that thing, you have a little bit more self-mastery over it. You might still indulge, but again, just be conscious. You're watching, how is your thought process before the trigger starts? What are you doing? And then you become aware of your thoughts and your feelings as you go through the addiction. And afterwards, if there's any shame and guilt, you just are aware of the whole drama unfolding. And that's it. You don't take part in the drama. You're just aware of it. Observing it. Like a scientist with a magnifying glass. You're impartial. I think that's the right word. You're neutral. You stop judging yourself because you're believing certain things into existence. Like if you're engaging in an addiction, a self-destructive behavior, and you label that thing as bad, as wrong, well, guess what? Now you're wrong, and now you're bad. Now you've created a whole bunch of inner conflict within yourself. But your own creation. And what you find is that that self-destructive behavior, its negative quality is assumed naturally. So we have to consciously and actively reframe our understanding of the situation. And once we do that, it stops being a bad thing, stops being a problem. So for example, in the devil's cookie story, this would be like consciously eating the cookie. Not judging yourself as bad, as wrong, as, oh, I shouldn't be eating this cookie too soon. You get out of that psychological drama and you just eat it. And you pay attention to how you think and how you feel. And if you can't help yourself, and you just continue indulging, you just keep paying attention to how you feel, and you don't judge yourself. Because what will happen is that you, with your own eyes, will not need to be told what is right and wrong. You will know for a fact that it is not good to eat 10 cookies in a row. And so if you pay attention to the suffering that creates, you naturally and effortlessly begin letting go of that behavior. And this is why I say, I forget what it's called. Well, the worst thing you can do is maintain an addiction. Like be a functioning addict. The absolute worst thing you can do. It's better to be on a whole self-destructive spiral in which you hit rock bottom quickly than it is to drag that stuff out over years. Because the more suffering you experience, the more it wakes you up. As Carl Jung said, I think, if a man persists in his folly long enough, he will find wisdom. This is kind of along the same lines. Now the thing is, we all have a beggar within us. And, well, no offense to the world, but most people I see are beggars. Not the ones on the street, I mean normal people that you meet. Because they're living in lack and scarcity. And even if, like, for instance, they're rich, there's still this fear of losing. And there's still this desire of wanting. So long as you have the fear of losing and the desire to want, you are a beggar because you're living in lack and scarcity. You think there's not enough, or that it's possible that you could lose everything. So your life is on rocky roads. And there's a part of us that is a king or queen. Quite the opposite. The king and queen want for nothing because they have everything. They already rule the whole kingdom. They don't need anything. So our goal in this life is to go from being a beggar to a king or a queen. And don't just how they talk about nowadays, like, slay, king. You will not slay until you finish this video. Because here's the rub. Now here's the deal. What do you think the beggar eats for food? The beggar eats garbage. I saw a video yesterday. It actually changed my perspective as I was doom scrolling on social media. He was talking about being born again as a Christian. And he was talking about, doing all those things that weren't good for him. And then one day he changed. And it's like there's a pig in all of us. Little piggy. And that's the beggar. So what he said, if you have a bucket of garbage and you have a nice 5-star meal on a nice golden plate, I'm making it my own. If you put the pig in that room, what's he going to do? The first thing he's going to do is going to go eat the garbage, because the pig likes the garbage. He likes to eat the garbage. But if you turn that pig into a man as he's eating the garbage, what does he look like? It's very pitiful. A naked man eating a bunch of garbage. Disgusting. But a naked pig is not that big of a deal. And, well, what would the man do? He would stop eating the garbage and go eat the fine meal. Maybe put some clothes on, for Christ's sake. And this is what we need to take into consideration. The devil's cookie is the garbage. And it's our little piggy nature that attracts us toward it. Which is why a lot of religions talk about denying the flesh. Now, tantric is kind of the opposite. Instead of running away, you run toward it. But again, not in hedonistic, just pleasure. You're doing it with a purpose. You're doing it consciously. You eat the garbage and the poop consciously. Well, because the fact is, there's a part of you that wants the garbage. And it eats it up. Now, what is the garbage in real life? Well, if you've ever spent 5 minutes on social media, you know exactly what it is. We're always consuming and paying attention to things that don't matter at all. Just all kinds of garbage. And I do it too. But what I realized yesterday, the revelation, is that when you imagine these little things that we do, that we know that aren't quite the best for us, when you start viewing them as, for example, candy bugs. Have you ever eaten a candy bug? It's like, let's say you got a big bowl of, bugs. Insects. And they got, some sugar on them or something. All throughout the day, all throughout our life. Every day, we're just... Now, bugs are probably a little bit nutritious, so maybe not the best example. But psychologically, you don't want to eat any bugs. But this is what we're doing all the time. And what I realized was that there is an infinite kingdom awaiting you of everything you ever wanted. Imagine the biggest kingdom. Gold everywhere, and love everywhere, and peace and joy and abundance everywhere. And everyone loves you, and everyone loves everything, because that's heaven. This great infinite kingdom awaits you, but we're so busy eating the candy bugs that, well, no, I don't want the kingdom. I just want these little bugs. More bugs, more bugs. Little piggy. We're living like beggars. I'm sure there's some kind of mythological story of, well, you're a prince or a princess, but you have forgotten your lineage, so you just believe you're a beggar on the street. You're actually royalty. But you don't know that you're royalty, so you're not. But you are. Fundamentally. And what I already feel is helping. Although we'll see what happens. It's never quite a linear process and never quite goes the way we think. But once you kind of find yourself dabbling in lesser things, it seems to me that if you view them in their true light as like candy bugs or like garbage, like you're eating garbage, if you can kind of make that vivid in your mind, and then also make vivid what it's costing you, this ultimate kingdom of freedom and love, peace, and joy, and God, and all the good stuff in the world. Everything you could have ever desired, that is what this garbage is costing you. And if you think about real life, like somebody puts before you, like, hey, you can have $10 billion, or you could have this bucket of garbage. What would you choose? Is there anyone who would choose the garbage? I don't know. But because we like a cookie, it doesn't look like garbage to us, even though it is. Do you realize cookies are garbage? Now again, eating a little bit of garbage every once in a while, not the worst thing. But after you eat your vegetables. And this is part of awakening from the dream. For example, because the cookie is presented in a nice way, it's got nice packaging, looks nice. I don't have a cookie in my hand, but imagine if there was cookies. It fools us into believing that it's something that it's not. Same thing with pornography. It's the same exact thing. It fools you into believing you're receiving something that you're not. It's only taking from you. But, again, if you take the tantric approach, it has no power over you. You're all good. You can eat as many cookies as you want because your mind is already oriented in the right direction. But if you don't, very bad things. Your life will go downhill very quickly if you don't stop eating the cookies. But once you orient your mind towards God, it doesn't matter. You're good. It's going to take some time, but you're already good. Because what God will do, at least in my case, God will help you realize that what you're doing is not actually what you want. But it will use these things and the suffering they cause to help you realize what really matters. Help you motivate yourself to the truth so that you desire what is good. And if you live a lukewarm life where it's not really that bad or that good, well, you'll stay stuck there. There's no desire for anything greater. You're not going to want the kingdom because you have scraps. You have enough scraps to keep you a little bit full, so you're not interested in the infinite abundance that is already present, that is awaiting you. We settle for the bugs and the garbage all the time and sacrifice the ultimate kingdom. Not good. So we are born into the illusion of this world. We get trapped in it, the world of 10,000 things. And we assume that the pleasures of this world will satisfy us. But they can't, because you can't find lasting satisfaction in a temporary world. It's garbage. It doesn't fully neutralize you. It doesn't give you the nutrition that you need. And really what it's about is about taking your consciousness out of beggerness and return to your true self as the king or queen. Now, one way we'll do this is, so when you find yourself indulging in something, you can just make a note, okay, I have a choice in this moment. I get to choose the bugs or I get to choose the kingdom. And it's fine what you choose. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you choose the pig thousands of times. You know what is right in your mind, your knowledge, your wisdom. And yet you do the opposite. But that's okay. Do the opposite. So you can reaffirm what you already know. That what you're indulging in isn't actually what you want. It's only the illusion of what you want. All you got to do is become free from that illusion. And the truth will reveal itself. The right path will reveal itself. And we have to realize that these detours in life where we feel like we're being led astray, it might not actually be true. Because God uses these things to teach us and help us become aware of what is actually true, good, and right. And eventually you get tired of eating the garbage. You get tired of eating the candy bugs. And if you're tired of eating it, does it take any effort to stop? Like, oh no, I have to eat more and more. And even then, sometimes that's a good thing. Because if you just go all out and indulge, you're going to feel sick. You're going to feel worse than if you just kind of took it easy. There's going to be more suffering. It's like every time after someone has a late night out of drinking alcohol, the next morning they're like, oh, I'm never doing this again. Because it sucks. But then we forget the suffering that it caused us and we do it again. And we do it again and forever and always until enough suffering happens in which we permanently wake up from this illusion. We assume that there's something good, and the only time there is if you're focusing on God. If you're using your current experiences for spirituality. Otherwise, it's just hedonistic pleasure and you're going downhill. Probably won't survive until you hit rock bottom and then come back up. It's like someone like Russell Brand is a perfect example because he was kind of that indulgent man, indulging in all the world's pleasure. But then what did he realize? He realized, oh, that's all stupid. Saved by Jesus Christ. Realized that what he wanted was the kingdom, not the garbage. But guess what? Sometimes we just have to go through it in order to realize that. Wouldn't it be nice if we could just realize that off the bat and not have to go through all of this suffering? No, enjoy your pigginess. If you're going to eat the garbage, at least enjoy eating the garbage. Or the cookie. Cookie makes a little bit more sense. I'm not saying be perfect. In fact, I'm saying exactly the opposite. Accept yourself as the imperfect one who likes being a piggy sometimes. And experience that so you can realize, well, I don't want to be that anymore. I want to be a king or a queen. And really all it is a series of choices and thoughts. Every day you're going to be voting for one of these two characters. And whoever wins the most votes gets control over your life. Another way we can look at it is, well, once you actually make the intention to try to live in this state, it's already done. It's already finished. It's just time has to catch up and you got to go through the ringer. Because, it'd be nice if we could just change in an instant, but it's not really how life goes. Although sometimes it is. Oftentimes we have to get sick of being a beggar to ever even search for something better or greater. A big part of this is just being persistent. Keep going. And what will happen over time as you mature in this life? Doesn't matter if you're 20, doesn't matter if you're 60. As you spiritually mature, you will start dropping all the things that aren't serving you, that aren't serving your highest good. And you won't need to try so hard to get rid of it. You kind of just wake up out of this dream, like, what am I doing? You find yourself after an hour of eating all of this garbage, like, what am I doing? I got garbage and poop all over my face. And you have enough of those experiences where you're just like, okay, I'm over it. I'm over it. And then you place your identity on this, your highest self. You claim this, like, okay, you make a stand for yourself and you say, I don't want to be a beggar anymore. I want to be the best. The most important things for our success are things you can do right now. It's just these subtle, or not so subtle, ways of thinking that we change. Like, for example, taking a stand and saying, I don't want to be a beggar anymore. And the more you can reaffirm this new identity, because there's a part of us that, likes being a beggar, it likes eating the poop, because it's familiar. You have to identify with the version of you that doesn't want to be a beggar over the version of you that does want to be a beggar. And well, guess what? If you didn't want to be a beggar, you wouldn't be. If you didn't want to eat the poop, you wouldn't. But we do, because we want to. And we try to pretend like we're all morally superior. We're all just little piggies. Don't ever for one moment pretend or think that people don't have this little piggy inside them. Even your favorite heroes in the whole world are dealing with Piggy. Miss Piggy. And if you really saw them for who they truly were, the hero-ness, their mystique, their raised status, you would immediately just stop respecting them. All your favorite actors and the musicians and the famous people, even me. You do realize that social media is a lie, right? Everything you see on it is pretty much a lie. And what I mean is that people only show you what they want to show you. They don't show you what they don't want to show you. So you get this imaginary idea of who people are. And you project that onto them. Even though it has nothing to do with anything. It's just imaginary. So don't compare yourself to others. And don't think that there's people who aren't struggling with this. Unless you're some enlightened master. And even then, you're still gonna deal with it. Because you're a human being. But the question is, how much and how long do you feed Miss Piggy? It's like Jesus said in the Gospel of Thomas. If the lion were to eat the man, not good. because then the man would become lion. But if the man eats the lion, it's good, because the lion becomes man. And basically what he's talking about is, if you are consumed by your lower instincts, not good. But if you learn how to ride this beast, this body, you learn how to manage it properly, manage your energy, manage your thoughts, you integrate the lower instincts into you. That is good, because now you have hundreds of millions of years of evolutionary instinct on your side, and you're not fighting against them. It's like if you had a pet T-Rex. Well, you better learn how to treat them right. Because if you try and lock that T-Rex in a cage and abuse it and neglect it, it's going to break out and it's going to eat you. You got to let it out. You got to ride it. Ride the T-Rex. Give it a goat or two so it doesn't eat you. Meaning, you have to have a healthy expression of your instincts. Which is why I am very much against, well, not very much against, renunciation. It just has its own problems. So does the tantric path have its own problems. I just find that the renunciant path is a little bit more, well, not my style. Because repressing those animal instincts is like putting that T-Rex in a cage. And most people can't handle it. Unless you're a monk in a monastery with other monks also renunciating the world. How are you going to do that? If you're any kind of normal person living in the world, it cannot be done. You cannot do it. And if you try, well, it's like Ram Dass would say, you're just going to be a horny celibate. And that goes for all of your instincts, all of your desires. You're just going to be a frustrated human being. And you won't enjoy the pleasures of the world, and you won't enjoy the spiritual pleasures. Because you're caught in this poopy middle ground, and you haven't decided which side you want to be on. Because there's a part of you that doesn't want this anymore. It doesn't desire that. It desires this. But there's also a part of you that wants it. So we enter into this inner conflict. We're fighting with ourselves. There's mutiny among the crew. And you can see this is kind of where self-sabotage happens. Where you want one thing, something better, but something else pulls you down. It's because there's that inner conflict, that inner cognitive dissonance. Two parts of you want different things that are not in agreement. So, what do? You use the lesser things to bring you to what you want. Rather than trying to just force yourself to get what you want and avoid all of this. Because again, unless you're a monk in a monastery where your whole environment is specifically set up for nothing but this, it's too hard to do it on your own. This is like eating your cake and having it too. If you have a cake, why not eat it? And you're not allowed to eat cake that you have. So what I'm saying is that you get to enjoy kind of the temporary pleasures of the world that don't really satisfy you, but they kind of bring a little bit of satisfaction up front and pain on the other side. And if you use that pain to bring you here, you get to enjoy the whole experience of life. And the fact is, well, you have desires. Little Miss Piggy has desires. And you can pretend all day long that you don't really want it, but you're just going to have to keep it a secret. Because you know that you do want it. It doesn't matter if it's good for you or if it's right or wrong, you want it. Which is why it makes you a beggar. So you kind of play this game with yourself. It's like, okay, this is what you want, let's go, let's do it. Okay, have it. Now what? And you have it and you have it and you have it. Until you stop wanting it anymore. Once you stop wanting it, well, it's easy to let it go. All you gotta do is orient your mind toward the highest good. You seek love, peace, and joy, and abundance over the fleeting pleasures of the world. And guess what? As Christ said, once you seek the kingdom of God and you find it, then everything else will be added on to you. You'll have all the temporary pleasures that are good for you and not self-destructive, but only until you find what really matters. Because the thing is, this life is meant to be experienced and enjoyed. So it's not like you just need to run away from the world. I mean, how messed up is that? God created the universe, created everything, and the only thing you want is to escape. Salvation. Get me out of here, God. I just want to go to heaven. I don't want any of this. But that's kind of like, beside the point. You want to learn how to be in the world, but not of the world. so that you can experience life how it was meant to be experienced. Not as a slave, not as a beggar, but as sovereign. Those who become sovereign will reign on the earth. Because in a world full of beggars, they have no power. They're not doing anything. And even the people in power, they're still beggars. How many people in power do you think really need to be in power? Spend their whole lives trying to get in power, in places of power, so they can control other monkeys. Doesn't matter. Maybe Elon Musk is probably a beggar. But because we're all kind of in the same boat, we think, oh no, Elon Musk, he's the richest man in the world. Now, I don't know Elon Musk, so I don't want to judge, but he's probably not the happiest person on earth. Just saying. Just because he's the richest doesn't mean he's living the best life. There's probably some, old lady in Cambodia who's living a better life than Elon Musk. Because everything of this world is dust. And it's dust because it's change. Change is death. It's nothing. The world is empty. Which is why nothing gives you satisfaction. Because if you realize you were just eating dust and not a cookie, it would make much more sense how it's not serving you at all. But everything of this world will fade away and return to nothingness. So too, all of your stuff is nothing. It was always nothing. Doesn't matter how much money you have. Doesn't matter how big of a kingdom you make. It's dust. It's nothing. The bigger your castle, the bigger loser you are. Now, of course, I'm being this way on purpose. To prove a point that it doesn't matter how much stuff you have. It doesn't make your life better. Because what use is more dust? There's no use. There's no use for it. Doesn't mean you can't have the things of the world. It just means that you're not caught in the illusion that they're doing that much for you. Because you can be a beggar in real life. Meaning, you have nothing of this world. You're completely homeless. You have zero possessions but the clothes on your back. And you can be a king or a queen. Oops, drop the bee. Oh, and the duck. And you can be a king or queen in the world on the surface, but truly be a beggar. That is also why God, or Jesus said, the first will be last and the last will be first. Because we have a very warped understanding of reality. We generally think that the more stuff you have, the better you are. Like if you have $1 million, it means you're better. In some form or fashion. But of course, anyone who's wise realizes that's stupid. You begin to feel a little bit of pity for all of these people who think that they have power, who think they're in charge. And that's the kind of funny dynamic that life presents to us. Is that you have these so-called evil people in charge, trying to control people, trying to, use them as batteries in the matrix. And they feel like, yes, I'm important because I'm in control and I have power. But the true nature of their reality is they're just insecure little nothings. Beggars. Very pitiful. But everyone else sees them as kings and queens because they have all the power. On the surface, bigger piles of dust. And sometimes the homeless person you walk by is an enlightened master. True power comes from within, not about what you have or what you do. It's all about how much you're connected to the power within you. And what we're essentially doing is we're unveiling the illusions of this world and beginning to see life a little bit more clearly. And when we see life a little bit more clearly, we begin prioritizing the right things. Because when we're stuck in illusion, in unconsciousness, we prioritize the garbage, the piggy. So it's an awakening from darkness into light, from ignorance into truth. And well, to make it clear and simple, what is the illusion? What is the ignorance? The ignorance is assuming that if I get money, I'll be happy. If I get a house, I'll be happy. If I get a new car or a new relationship, then I'll be happy. So beggar, beggar, beggar. I need something to make me happy. I need something. I'm ruled by my desires. That's what it is. But the true nature of reality is that everything is dust because everything is changing, because everything is changing is death. So life is a graveyard. Everyone's already dead. Sorry. Of course, don't want to get too crazy. A little dark. But the true nature of things is dust. Which is why they don't satisfy you, because there's no nutrition. It's eating the cookie. So we get stuck in the illusion. We get stuck in the world of 10,000 things. In samsara, the wheel of suffering. until we suffer so much and realize the true nature. Suffering destroys the illusion. Because if you eat a whole bunch of garbage and get sick, you realize, well, that wasn't very nutritious. And you have the desire to fulfill yourself. And I take the tantric approach because sometimes you need to fulfill all of your worldly desires to be free from that illusion. It's too strong. And this comes with great relief as well, because you're not carrying this tension psychologically of trying to run away from your strong desires. Now, sometimes you have to, like if you're doing crack or heroin, you can't just, do as much as you can. Gotta be careful. But all temporary pleasure is the same. Pleasure up front, pain after. But if you can use the addictions and the problems and the struggles as your spiritual teacher, they stop becoming bad and you are on your way to freedom, to love, peace, joy, and abundance. And all you got to do is take the first step. Just shift your mind a little bit. Point the coordinates a little bit this way. A little bit toward this. And away from this. Everything else will take care of itself. Because once you got the coordinates typed in your maps, you've already made it. It doesn't matter how slow you go, eventually you'll make it to where you're going. But if you don't have this, if you're not pointed in the right direction, if you're not pointed toward growth and evolution, well then you can drive forever and ever and ever and never make it anywhere. And that's how most people live their lives. They're just caught in the storm of life and then they die. You must come into your true power, my friend. Don't allow the beggar to run your life anymore. And even if the beggar returns, you have all the power because you get to decide how you react. When you find yourself scrolling on social media, swipe, 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 or doing whatever addictive behavior, just bring your awareness to the situation. Do it consciously. You make the decision, yes, I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do it consciously. And there's going to be probably some voice in your mind that says, oh, you're just making this as an excuse so you can indulge in whatever you want. You got to work with your own psychology. Work with your mind. Stop listening to the voices that bring you down. Remember your mission. You're on your way to the kingdom. And everything else is irrelevant. Everything else is just a passing experience on the way to where you're going. Yes, there are going to be detours. Yes, you're going to find yourself in downward spirals sometimes. Not where you think you want to be. But every detour, every delay is actually the path forward that God creates for ourselves. Because if we knew what it took to get here, we wouldn't do it. So we have to kind of be in the dark about this. And we have to trust that God is leading us to where we need to go. Back to your king or queen state. And at the end of this, what you will find is that all the desires fall away but the desire for God. Because you realize that infinite kingdom is what you want. Not the bugs, not the piggy, not the garbage. You want the nutritious food. You want the fulfillment. You want the best of the best. Transformers. Robots in disguise. I'll show them my swords. You think I could destroy a transformer with swords alone? I think it can be done. And look, don't just pretend that the only thing you want is God if you really do have these earthly desires that are pulling you. Because they won't leave you alone. They're going to be bugging you. And you can hold them down. You can hold them away for a while. Like, get out of here. You dodge them. The temptations and the desires. But there's always going to be temptation. So you have to deal with temptation itself. It doesn't matter what specific you're dealing with. You have to learn how to become untemptable by becoming free from its illusion. Because if somebody handed you garbage and said, eat this, you wouldn't do it. Because it's so obvious. You're aware of the true nature of that thing. But if somebody hands you a cookie, you're like, okay, let me eat it. Because the cookie is garbage disguised as something tasty. So you get the temporary pleasure, but then you feel bad afterwards. As Jim Carrey once said, I wish everyone could achieve everything they ever desired in this world. All the fame, all the money, whatever. Just to realize it wasn't what they actually wanted. And sometimes that's exactly what we need to do. You keep persisting in your folly, your addictions, your problems, your struggles. And through that, you are transformed. And you gain wisdom. But only if you have your mind pointed in the right way. Don't just indulge unconsciously, because there's no guarantee that you make it out. But if you bring God with you to the situation, then it doesn't matter what happens anymore. Because you and God are now in this dynamic relationship where you're working with each other. God presents to you situations in your life. You react and respond to those situations. You reflect on God. What is God trying to teach me here? And if you're struggling with addiction, well, you say, well, God could take away everything, all the problems, all the struggles, all the addictions in a moment. So if the addiction is still here, it means that there's something I need to learn from it. And so you prevent yourself from going down these self-destructive spirals. And no matter what happens, you will always come out on top because your mind is pointed in the right direction. You're no longer wallowing in suffering, but you're aware of the suffering that the temporary pleasures cause you. And until the negative side effects outweigh the positive so-called benefit, you will not let go. So long as you think there's something to get, you will continue indulging in that behavior. And until you realize that there's nothing good, for the most part, you won't give it up. And we usually don't realize that until we've experienced enough suffering. Lots of pleasure up front, and the more you engage in it, the less pleasure it is and the more painful it is. Which is why people need to hit rock bottom. Choose the infinite castle, my friend. And even if you don't, set the intention to do the right thing the next time. And if you don't, then do it the next time. And then if you don't, then do it the next time. And you just do it over and over again until you're just so awakened that all of this loses its attraction. Back to the void with the beggar. And at the end of it all, the only logical decision is, because if you were presented with a pile of gold or a pile of poop, which one are you going to choose? You just have to have that clarity. Everything is in disguise. Everything in this world is illusions and how things appear on the surface. That's the fun of it all. And as you do your time in the prison world, and the prison world is the illusion. You do your time, you focus on getting out, and God's grace will help you flow through those situations, those addictions, those problems. But you have to have God in your life, because if you don't have God, you're at risk from dying. Like if you and God are communicating all the time, and you're constantly in dialogue, God, like, oh, well, what's going on, God? Then the chances of God allowing you to die is very slim, because God doesn't want you to suffer and die. But if you engage in all the temporary pleasures and the addictions and the problems, and you don't have God in your life, you could die anytime. You need God's grace to get through these things. And even if you don't believe in God, you just give it a shot. Like if you're suffering, then what does it matter? What does it matter? Whatever you believe is not helping you, not working out for you. So it may be time to believe something else. And you might ask, well, how do we embody the king or queen energy? And it's simple. As I say, just be, because that is what the king and queen do. You see, the warriors, they're out taking action, fighting, using their swords. But the king and queen just sit on the throne. And they give commands. And life changes. So you become the silent presence. And that is where your power is. You remain in the present moment. You are. This is about being. You're not getting caught in your thoughts all the time. You continue to surrender and surrender and surrender into the present moment until your mind is empty. And when your mind is empty, you are filled with the light of God. But when your mind is filled with all of the desires of the world, God cannot reach you. Or should I say, you cannot hear God. You do not see God, you do not perceive God. You only perceive the world. And as, I think it was Rumi might have said it, maybe not. Those who look at the world do not see God. And those who look at God do not see the world. When you're caught in the illusion of the world, you are a beggar. When you are free from the illusion of the world, you are a king or a queen. And it doesn't matter what your external circumstances are. You can be free and be in prison up here. And you could literally be in prison and be free up here. It's all about the mind. It's all about your perception. What state of consciousness are you coming from? Are you coming from beggar consciousness, or are you coming from king and queen consciousness? Beggar consciousness is full of fear and worry and stress and survival and negativity and problems. But with king and queen energy, all of that is erased. You're not worrying because you're the king or the queen. You're in charge, you're at the top. Meaning you can deal with anything. You can handle any situation. So there's great confidence. There's no worry, there's no fear. Maybe you're stressed out sometimes, but you learn the power of non-reaction, of just being present, just allowing life to unfold and trusting that God is already taking care of everything. And once you start living this way, well, life is so much better because nobody wants to live like a beggar. I am Ray, and if you'd like to break free from the prison of your mind, check out Mastermind Mastery, where I will help you become free from your negative thoughts that lead you astray, make you a beggar. I am Ray, much peace and many blessings, and remember, just be